I showed you how we can actually make a truth table for conjunction and disjunction. Let's make a truth table for, if P then Q for condition. So if P then Q, I have P and Q. Again, I have two segments, so I have four possibilities. So P, Q, four possibilities. Sorry, P, Q. So four possibilities. For half of the possibilities, P is true. For half of the possibilities, P is false. Let's focus here. When P is true, you have two options for Q. It's either true or false. And when P is false, you have two options for Q. It's either true or false. Here you go. If P, then Q. P is your antecedent and Q is your consequent. If your antecedent is true and your consequent is true, if P then Q is true. If your antecedent is true, but your consequent is false, if P then Q is false. Makes sense, right? But if your antecedent is false, you don't need to even look at your consequent. We consider if P then Q as true. Okay, so one more time. If P is true, if P then Q. If P is true, Q is true. If P then Q is true. If P is true and Q is false, if P then Q is false, that is the only situation that the conditional is false. When antecedent is true, but consequent is false. If your antecedent is false, right, you don't even need to look at your consequent. You consider if P then Q as true. Well, because if P is false, right, if P then Q statement really makes no claims whatsoever about Q. That is why it cannot be said to be false. So we consider that as true. So here you go. I can provide an example to clarify that. If P then Q, let's say P is I win the lottery and Q is I travel around the world. So if P then Q, if P is true, I win the lottery. And Q is true, I travel around the world, right? If P then Q is true, I win the lottery is true, and I travel around the world is true. So if P then Q is true, that makes sense, right? But if I win the lottery, but I don't travel around the world, right? So in that case, the statement is false, right? That makes sense. I win the lottery is true, I travel around the world is false. Right? So if P then Q is false. But let's say, look at here, that your antecedent is false, right? You win the lottery is false, so you don't win the lottery. If I don't win the lottery and I travel around the world, there's nothing wrong with that. If I don't win the lottery and I don't travel around the world, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's why if your antecedent is false, right? If P then Q is actually true. Here you go. I win the lottery is false. I travel around the world, so nothing's wrong with that. So if P then Q is true. Or I win the lottery is false, and I travel around the world is false. So if P then Q is true, there's nothing wrong with that, right? So this is the truth table for conditional, for if P then Q. If you invest in Widget Incorporated, then you get rich. You didn't invest in Widget Incorporated, therefore you didn't get rich. Let's go back to this example. You have an argument. You want to see whether or not this argument is logically valid. So, step one, we said that break the argument into simple statements. I only see two simple statements. One of them is you invest in Widget Incorporated, and the other one is you get rich. So I call them P and Q. Okay, P, you invest in Widget Incorporated. Q, you get rich. Step two, actually change the whole argument into symbols. I start from line 1, if then, so it's conditional. If P, if you invest in widget incorporated, then Q, you get rich. Look at the second line, you didn't invest in widget incorporated. You invest in widget incorporated is P. It says you didn't invest, so that's a negation, it's not P. Therefore, I see the therefore, so it means I'm going to have a conclusion. So I draw the line, right? This is a symbol for conclusion. The conclusion is you didn't get rich. You get rich is Q, you didn't get rich is the negation, so it's not Q. So I change the whole statement into symbols. Whatever you have above the line are your premises. Whatever you have below the line is your conclusion. So these are the premises, this is the conclusion. So that's step 2. Step 3, so as you see, whatever you have above the line, your premises, below the line, your conclusion. Step 3, make a truth table. And step 4, make sense of your truth table. Well, truth table, look at the whole argument in symbols, okay? Well, I have 2 statements, P and Q, so I start with my statements, right? What I need to make, I need to make all the premises, and I need to make the conclusion in my truth table. I have 2 premises. One of them is if P then Q. The other premise is not P, and the conclusion that I have is not Q. I have to make them all in one truth table. So I always start with my statements. I have 2 statements, P and Q, so I start with P and Q. So I'm step 3, making the truth table. P and Q. Again, I have 2 statements, so I have 4 possibilities. For half of them, P is true. For half of them, P is false. Look at the case that P is true. We have 2 options for Q is either true or false. Well, when P is false, you have 2 options for Q is either true or false. So I have all the possibilities, 4 possibilities. True, 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 false, false, true, false, false. Now I want to make my premises. First premise, first line, if P, then Q. If P, then Q. If this column, then this column. This is my antecedent, this is my consequent. When the antecedent is true, consequent is true, if P then Q is true. When antecedent is true, consequent is false, the conditional is false. When your antecedent is false, you don't even need to look at your consequent. The conditional is true. Okay? Well, this is my premise 1. I label that. What is the second premise? Look at the second line. It's not P. That's the negation. So whatever I have for P, I make that the opposite for not P. So P is true, not P is false. P is true, not P is false. P is false, not P is true. P is false, not P is true. So the opposite. Well, this is premise 2. I'm gonna label it. When you make all the premises, then you make the conclusion. The conclusion is not Q, okay? Not Q. That's the opposite of Q, their negation. Whatever you have for Q, make it the opposite. Q is true, not Q is false. Q is false, not Q true. Q is true, not Q is false. Q is false, not Q is true. Okay? Don't forget to label this. This is your conclusion. So, now, I need to make sense of my truth table. Well, I want to see whether or not the argument is valid. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make this. If premise 1 and premise 2, then conclusion. So I have to add this into my table. If premise 1 and premise 2, if this whole thing, then conclusion. So first of all, I make premise 1 and premise 2. That is why it's very important to label, your premises in your table. This is premise 1, this is premise 2. So first I make premise 1 and premise 2. Premise 1 is if P then Q, right? And premise 1 and premise 2, which is not P. So it means I'm going to use the AND rule between these two columns. For AND, we said that for AND, the value is true if both the statements are true, otherwise it's false. So this column and this column, and between these two, both must be true. Okay, one of them is false, so I get false. Both must be true. Okay, both are false, I get false. Both must be true. Okay, both are true, I get true. Both must be true to get a true value. Both are true, so I get a true value. Okay. I need to make if premise 1 and premise 2, then conclusion. If this, then conclusion. Okay? If this one, premise 1 and premise 2, if this, then conclusion. Conclusion is not Q. It means I have conditional between this column and this column. Be careful. This is my antecedent. If this, then this. This is my consequence. So this is my start point. Okay? Well, your start, the antecedent is false. When the antecedent is false, we say don't even look at your consequent. Consider the conditional as true. Well, my start, the antecedent is false. You don't even need to look at your consequent. You consider the conditional as true. Your antecedent is true. Your consequent is false. The conditional is false. Your antecedent is true. Your consequent is true. And conditional is true. Well, now we can make sense of the table. Well, if all the values in the last column, if premise 1 and premise 2, then conclusion, all the values are true, you have true, then you have a valid argument, logically valid argument. But look at here, I have one false. Then I have invalid argument. So if all the values are true, the last column, right? If premise 1 and 2, then conclusion. All the values are true, you have logically valid argument. But here, see, one of them is false. So I have invalid argument. So if you invest in Widget Incorporated, then you get rich. You didn't invest in Widget Incorporated, therefore you didn't get rich. This argument is not logically valid. It's invalid. Well, there's another way. These 4 steps that you follow. Step 1, you choose P and Q. Step 2, you write down the whole arguments, right, in symbols, right? Step 3, you make a truth table. So when you make the truth table, you start with P and Q. You make all the premises. Premise 1 is if P then Q. Premise 2 is not P. And you make the conclusion. The conclusion is not Q. When you make all the premises and conclusion, then you can make sense of the table right here. Okay. You can stop here. But something very, very important. In this case, you need to only focus on the premises and conclusion. So here, premise 1, premise 2, conclusion. Ignore the rest, okay? Just premises and conclusion. Go row by row. If you can find at least one row for which all the premises are true, but conclusion is false, then you have invalid argument. If you cannot find such a row, you have a valid argument, okay? So I'm going to interpret, make sense of my truth table right here. I focus on my premises and conclusion. I go row by row. If I find only one row for which all premises are true and conclusion is false. All premises are true, no, not this one, no, not this one. Okay, here. Both premises are true. I look at the conclusion, okay, it's false. I was able to find one row, at least one row, for which the premises are true and the conclusion is false. I found this row, so this is invalid argument. If I cannot find such a row, I have a valid argument, right? So as you see, I have the same results. Here I made sense of the table, I have invalid argument. Here I made premise 1 and premise 2, then I made another column if premise 1 and premise 2, then conclusion, and I found that is invalid argument. So see, I have the same results, okay? So see which one's better for you, but you need to explain, if you want to choose this way, you need to explain how you are making sense of your table, right? So here you go. If there is at least one row for which all the premises are true, but the conclusion is false, then the argument is invalid. If you cannot find such a row, then you have a valid argument. Well, let's cover an example. This is from your textbook, and it says just find out whether or not this argument is valid. Well, it says if it's cold, my motorcycle will not start. My motorcycle is started, therefore it is not cold. Okay, so step 1. Find the simple statements called it P and Q. Well, it's cold. My motorcycle is started. It says translate each argument into symbolic form, okay? And then find out whether or not the argument is valid. So I see two simple statements. One of them is that it's cold. One of them is that my motorcycle will start. Actually, in your textbook it says that when you choose P and Q, the simple statements, make sure that actually they're not negated, okay? For example, I say P is it is cold. No, it is not cold, okay? So I choose non-negated. So P, I call that P. It is cold. One simple statement, and Q, my motorcycle start. So that's step 1. I have P, I have Q. Step 1. Step 2, change the whole argument into symbols. I start from the first line, okay, it's if, so that's a conditional. If it's cold, if P, if it's cold, my motorcycle will not start. My motorcycle starts, or doesn't matter, started, doesn't matter. My motorcycle starts is Q. It says, my motorcycle will not start, so that's a negation, so it's not Q. That's the first line. Look at the second line. My motorcycle started. My motorcycle starts, that's Q. Therefore, okay, that's the line. Therefore, I put the therefore sign. It is not cold. It's cold is P. It's not cold, it's not P. I change the whole argument into symbols. That's step 2. Now step 3. Make a truth table. Okay. Make a truth table. I start with P and Q. I have 2 statements, so I have 4 possibilities, right? True, 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 false, false, true, false, false. Okay? You always start from your statements, P and Q. Now, I make my premises. Premise 1 is if P, then not Q, right? If P, then not Q. Well, This is the first premise. If P, then not Q. I need to make that. To make that, first I make not Q. Okay? Well, I have Q here. I make not Q. Negation, that's the opposite value, right? Has the opposite truth value. Q is true, then not Q is false. Q is false, not Q is true. Q is true, not Q is false. The opposite. Q is false, not Q is true. Okay? So now I make the first premise is if P, then Q. If P, then not Q. The first premise, if P, then not Q. If P, this column, is your antecedent, not Q is your consequent. So I'm using the conditional between these two columns. That's the start, that's the consequent. So, conditional. Your antecedent is true, consequent is false. What do you get? False. Your antecedent is true, consequent is true. That's true. Your antecedent is false. You don't even need to look at your consequent. You consider it as true. Well, I made premise 1. Don't forget to label. Okay. Now second premise. Second line. Second line. That's premise 1. Premise 2 is Q. Okay. I have Q here, so I don't need to rewrite it, okay? So I just label it here, premise 2. I don't need to rewrite it. No, I need to make a conclusion. Here's the conclusion. Conclusion is not P. That's easy. I have P, not P. Has the opposite value. P is true, not P is false. P is true, not P is false. P is false, not P is true. P is false, not P is true. Well, don't forget to label it. Conclusion, here you go. Now, step 4, I need to make sense of my table. One way, I can keep going, and I can make premise 1 and premise 2, and then one column I add, if premise 1 and premise 2, then conclusion. That's one way. Well, the other way is that you go row by row. I'm going to go and show you both, okay? So way 1. I keep going, and I make premise 1 and premise 2. So premise 1 is if P, then not Q. Premise 1 and premise 2 is Q. Here you go. I make that. Premise 1, this column, premise 2, this column. I'm going to use the AND rule, okay, between these two columns. For AND, we said that both the statements must be true, okay, to have a true value. One is true, one is false. We say both must be true, so this is false, right? Both must be true. Okay, one of them is false, so I get false. Both must be true. Like here, one is true, the other one is true. Both must be true to get a true value. So I get true value here. Both must be true. Okay, one of them is false, so I get false. Here we go. I have premise 1 and premise 2. Now I need to make another column. If premise 1 and premise 2, premise 1 and premise 2, if premise 1 and premise 2, then conclusion, not P. Well, if this, then this. It means we have conditional between these two columns, but be careful. If this is your antecedent, this is your consequent, right? This is your start. Okay. Your antecedent is false. You don't even need to look at your consequent. Conditional is true. Your antecedent is false. You don't even need to look at your conclusion. The conditional is true. Now here, your antecedent is true. Your consequent is true. What do you get? True. Your antecedent is false. You don't even need to look at your consequent. The conditional is true. Okay, look at here. True, 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 true. If all the values in this column are true, it means you have a valid argument. Right? We have a valid argument. So, there is another way. I start with P and Q in my truth table. I make the premises, right? This is premise 1. This is premise 2, right? I make the conclusion, right? And then what I do, I can stop here and I can go row by row. Okay? Well, maybe I should draw it again to clarify. Okay? So, let's say I'm step 3, PQ, the truth table. So, premise, I have not Q, which is, well, I make premise 1. Premise 1 is if P, then not Q. So I'm just going to copy what I had there. False, true, true, true. So this is premise 1. Premise 2 is actually Q, so I have it here. So I need to make the conclusion. So the conclusion is not P. Not P is the opposite of P. So here it is. When I make all the premises and I make the conclusion, I stop. And then I start making sense of the table. In this way, I only focus on the premises and conclusion. So ignore the other columns. Only focus on the premises and conclusion. You go row by row. If you find at least one row for which all premises are true, but the conclusion is false, then you have invalid argument. If you cannot find such a row, you have a valid argument. So row by row. Okay, all premises must be true, not this one. All premises must be true. Okay, not this one. Okay, here. All premises are true. This is true, this is true. The conclusion is true. I keep going, right? Because I need to go all the rows, okay? Well, this one, all premises must be true. Okay, one of them is false, and I'm done. I wasn't able to find a row for which all premises are true and the conclusion is false. I couldn't find that row. So, I have valid argument. As you see, both ways give me the same results, right? So I have the valid argument. See which one works better for you. Valid argument. Make sure that if you want to choose this way and go row by row, you need to explain how you found out that it's a valid or invalid argument. You need to explain that if there is any row, at least one row, for which all premises are true, but the conclusion is false and the argument is valid. Well, here, I cannot find such a row, therefore, so the argument is valid. If you cannot find such a row, then you have a valid argument. Or you can find this one. You can follow this one, premise 1 and premise 2. If premise 1 and premise 2, then conclusion. If all the values are true, we call that totality, okay? All the values are true, then you have a valid argument. Now the truth table for biconditional. You have P if and only if Q. That's very, very easy. Well, again, I have P and Q. I have 4 possibilities, right? True, 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 false, false, true, false, false. Biconditional. Well, a biconditional statement is true only when the component statements, they have the same truth value. For example, P and Q, both are the same, both are true, you get true. Or both are the same, both are false, you get true. Otherwise, you get false. So P and Q, if they have the same truth value,